everybody, and welcome to the Absolute Football Podcast, Absolutely Non-League, the show dedicated to everything from the National League North, and National League South. And as always, we are in collaboration with NL Full-Time. Just wanted to get that out there. But yeah, do you know what? First of all, I just want to say a massive congratulations to the Lionesses. I mean, so happy. I wasn't expecting it, to be fair, because I thought, watching some of the performances, I think it shows a really good mentality. Don't get me wrong, but watching some of the games, I thought, we're never going to beat Spain. But it went down 2 penalties, and yeah, it was really good. So yeah, congratulations to them. And also, I just wanted to say my thoughts to everybody at Morecambe. Wasn't good news that came out today. Jen, bless her, was supposed to be on here. We do have her predictions, but she just needed a little bit of time out away from football and everything going on at Morecambe. So I hope that gets sorted. Really sad news coming out from there. But yeah, it's our National League North and South prediction show. I don't know whether to be excited or not because I'm usually really bad at them, but it's all in good fun, isn't it, guys? But Lee, how are you?
Exactly.
How are you?
Yes, I am. I'm very well, thank you. Just relaxing after a very busy Saturday for me. 3 games in one day, which was a lot of work in the end, but enjoyed it, and I'm ready for these predictions to go out tonight.
Love that. Ben, how are you?
I'm all right. After a little bit of a scare earlier because I forgot to realise that I didn't have any internet home, so this isn't my normal surroundings. To be fair, I've had to come to my brother's house he's helped me out last minute. So, but yeah, no, all good. Like I say, not as optimistic probably as the predictions as I probably was last season, but I've gone with my head this time rather than my heart. I think a lot of people will say so. But no, looking forward to seeing what sort of everyone's gone for in that, and see if there's any surprise packages or not tonight.
Dedication as well to the podcast, going to your brother's house. So thank you so much.
Anything for the pod.
And as I did say at the start, in collaboration with NL Full-Time, Joe, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad. A little bit nervous tonight with the predictions. We're always going to upset somebody. So, looking forward to it. It's certainly when you start doing your predictions, that's when you know that the season is just around the corner. So, yeah, quite looking forward to it.
And I just wanted to point out to anybody in the chat as well, if we do have your teams down as relegation, we apologise now. Don't come at us, please. I'm a little bit mad, so I don't appreciate anyone coming at me. And also, because of obviously my fiasco last week, I actually have paper notes. I didn't trust my phone because I deleted them, so I have paper notes. But of course, it's not just us. We have some amazing people in the chat. I know Chris has got his predictions that were ready as well. If anybody is in here and wants to get involved with the predictions, please do. Write them down as well so we can go back to it at the end of the season. As much as we're doing it, we do love to know your thoughts also. So we have Chris, we've got Josh, we've got Paul as well. We've got Chris. Hello, Chris. We've got Tom. A lot of people. Thank you. Chris is looking forward to listening on a weekly basis. Thank you. Hoping for better news for Jen and everyone associated with Morecambe. Well, not quite everyone. Yeah, we won't go into that though. With who we don't want. Graham. Good evening, all. I can't keep up with the chat. There's a lot, so thank you, everyone. We've got Jamie. He's put evening all.
Yes, legend.
We've got as well Sean. Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. Awful news at Morecambe and my thoughts with Jen and Liam. We've got as well Johnny. I know Johnny's also got his predictions ready. Hi Charlie, Joe and Ben. Hope you all are doing well and have a great show.
Johnny.
Oh, we've got our lovely Jen as well. Hello, lovelies. Just thought I'd pop in and say hello. Also, thank you everyone for the love and messages. We are broken, but we will get through it. We've got a lot of people sending their thoughts into Jen. Chippenham Town to win the National League South. Completely non-biased.
Love the optimism.
Very much.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. It's Sean's birthday, and I got given the job to be the birthday, absolute podcast singer. And that has been like the thing for 2-3 years now. So I will sing really, really quickly. If anybody does want to mute me, go for it. Sorry, I'm really sorry now, but happy birthday, Sean. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to Sean. Happy birthday to you. Hip, hip,
Hurrah!
everyone. Tuesday evening all. Hope everyone is well tonight. All good, thank you. Chris has put I'm a Macclesfield fan and really looking forward to the new season. Yeah, I wonder where we've all predicted Macclesfield. But let's start. And it is National League North. And first is relegation. Who am I going to target first?
What happened to my beard?
It's all in love, Ben. It's all in love. So, the Enterprise National League North, Ben's predictions for relegation. So we have Worksop Town, Bedford Town, Radcliffe, and Peterborough Sports. Elaborate, Ben.
It's really hard when I mean, my knowledge probably isn't as good with the North as it probably is with the South, but I mean, obviously, Worksop and Bedford have both just been promoted this year, and I think particularly for Bedford, it's a massive step up for them. I don't know if they've ever played at this level before, I mean, especially for a long time, because I've always known them to be, maybe a couple of leagues down. So I just think maybe the step up might be a bit too much for them. Same with Worksop. Again, I think Worksop, there's a potential there that they could maybe skin it potentially, but you have to make a decision amongst all the teams in there, and a lot of them are so established now in that division. It's always harder now for the new teams to come in. Radcliffe, yeah, I know a podcast friend of ours probably won't be very happy about me putting that in Jordan Hughes, but I don't know. It's tough because I think because they went on a really good run towards the end of last season, that sort of kept them up. You just think, is it a case of can they carry that momentum, or is it maybe going to be second season syndrome? And I'm a believer of second season syndrome. And as much as good of managers as Berno and Jono are, I just think maybe it might be a big of a task to them to go and do it again, because the expectation of a club like Radcliffe is probably to stay in the league because they are punching well above their weight. And Peterborough Sports, again, I think I predicted them to go down last year, but again, like they defy the odds. They're a small club in that division, and a bit like an Oxford City a little bit. They don't get the biggest support base in the world because obviously they've got the bigger club, not only just up the road in Peterborough United. So it is a tough one. And again, they might, well finish sort of 15th, 16th, like sort of similar to what they did last year. But I just had that feeling maybe that, again, with how competitive that division's getting now, it might just be a bit too much. But I say apologies to anyone that I've offended on some of these. This is what I've got to work with, and like I say, I'm quite happy for all these to bite me back in the arse come May time. When we review this again. So I think that's where I stand at the moment with these teams.
Anybody in the chat who has commented, I will go back to it at the end of obviously the relegated teams predictions. I'll do the teams first, and then obviously I'll go on to the chats just after. Go on.
One thing I will add, which just goes to show how difficult it is to predict the leagues, is one of those four that Ben's got down to finish in the bottom four are actually in my playoffs.
Oh, I'm looking forward to honestly, I get really hyped and buzzing at the start of the season for the predictions. I really do. I love looking back on it at the end of the season and thinking, oh, I did so well. Or usually it's, no, I did terribly wrong. So who have I put next? Lee, relegated team. So we have Worksop Town, Bedford Town, Radcliffe, and Scarborough. Elaborate.
Yeah, like the same with Ben. I don't know a great deal about National League North, but I probably think that I would probably say me and Ben are probably quite spot on with 3 out of the 4 that we got there. I mean, Bedford come up, Radcliffe, Worksop Town. I just don't think they're going to be strong enough for the league for the season. I think they're really going to struggle. Scarborough, I did say I've done a very left field on some teams, and I just think Scarborough are going to struggle this season. But like I said, I don't know a great deal about National League North. So the Scarborough one's a real big punt. But the other three, I probably reckon are, definite relegation teams.
I know there's a reoccurring theme with some of them. I won't say what, but there's a couple. Morgan, he's not on. He's not on to obviously justify his predictions. The relegated teams for him are Marine, Worksop Town, Telford, and Oxford City. Do you think they're pretty fair predictions, or does any of you want to really challenge them and think some of them?
I probably think looking at Morgan's, I probably think Marine and Oxford would probably be the ones to stay up.
Oh.
That's the feeling I'm going with. I just think out of the ones that we've said already, I think Oxford and Marine are probably the stronger sides. So I could see them going up. Sorry, Morgan. I know you're probably watching somewhere in America, but I've got to disagree with there, mate.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I would add on those, obviously Dickie's not with us, but obviously as a Telford fan, the aim for them will be just to stay up. And I think they'll be more than fine. I do worry a little bit with regards to depth because they got a good starting 11, but they don't have the biggest of squads. But they got a really experienced manager in Kevin Wilkin, who I imagine will keep them fairly safe. I don't think it'll be all that great to watch at times, but he'll have them more than safe for me. And I actually agree with Morgan in that the two teams from there that I've actually also got to go down are Marine and Oxford City.
Yeah, I think Telford, to be fair, actually, now thinking about it, that probably is a very good shout because they've been sort of a bit of a yo-yo club in between that league and the league below. It's been quite a tough time for them because especially when you look at the stadium and that, because it's actually a really nice stadium for the level, and you'd think they'd be comfortably safe if not pushing towards playoffs and everything. So I think that's a good shout, actually, to be fair, with Telford. I think, maybe the step up again, can they adapt to it? Oxford City, they're one of those sides for me that always tend to, compete at that level very well, where they've been in the National North or South. They've always tend to, really competed and what with the resources they've got. And I think they'll be fine. Obviously, with Marine, it's one of those where, they've got a new stadium to look forward to soon. And obviously that gives a buzz around the club. So, when you've got something like that to look forward to, that always tends to get a push. I mean, look at Truro, obviously, coming from absolutely nowhere, they get a new crown and they win their league. So, it does give, the town a bit of a boost and obviously the club a bit of a boost. So I think they'll be fine personally, Marine, with, what they got. I think they did really well last year. Again, with, limited resources in comparison to some of the bigger clubs, but I think they'll be fine again next season.
Right, next. Joe. So Joe's predictions are relegated teams are Marine, Southport, Scarborough and Oxford City.
Yeah, so obviously Oxford City obviously struggled last season, lots of travelling, and the fact that they are in the north, but obviously have predominantly played in the south, I think is going to be a big factor. They got one of the smallest squads in the league. I think they've got one or two players who I would say are really good, and perhaps even National League players, the likes of McEachran in midfield. But in terms of that depth, they lose one or two, I think they're going to be really struggling. They have got a good coach there, Ross Jenkins, but I do really fear that they've not got the depth and potentially the geography of where they are compared to the north is potentially a stumbling block in their recruitment. I agree with Lee actually on Scarborough. When they came up, Jonathan Greenham was viewed as this real top young up and coming manager, but it just seems, especially as the league gets stronger, if you kind of stand still as a club, then you obviously go the other way. And I think for Scarborough, they don't have enough goals from open play. I think a lot of the responsibility will be on Dom Tier again. He got double figures last year. They certainly haven't got a recognised striker that I would say would go and score double figures. They did actually sign Jake Hull today, who was at Rotherham, who actually is I think's a good centre back, but I think they'll lack quality overall. Southport, I think is probably, well, certainly Ben and Lee didn't have him in theirs. I just think obviously they've got a young manager now in Neil Dans, who's one of his first jobs in coaching. And they've got one of the oldest squads in the league. They have brought in a couple of younger players during the summer, to try and strike that right balance. But they were teetering on the edge last year, and they have been for the last couple of years. So again, as the league gets stronger, I think it becomes harder each year to avoid that drop. And then Marine, it was between one or two of two, the other one being Merthyr. And the only reason why I went for Marine to go down and for Merthyr to stay up is that Merthyr have got a player that I can see.
Sorry.
Technical difficulties.
Yeah, so the reason I picked Merthyr ultimately to stay up is they've got a player who I think can go and get 20 goals next season in Ricardo Rees, someone that's probably been worthy of a move higher up the leagues for a number of years. He's now got that chance to play higher. And when I compare Marine against Merthyr, I think Merthyr will have too many goals in their team compared to Marine. So, and they've lost one or two players, Marine as well. So that's my bottom four. Not easy to pick teams to go down. There's always be fans that will look back at the end of the season, no doubt, as they did that last year, and say, why have you got me to go down? But that's my reasoning, those four.
I do apologise as well then. I knocked my light flying, so I do apologise for that. I had a fight with a lamp. We've got our very own Sam as well. He's put, evening everyone, buzzing to have our non-league team back. I know. Paul has put, could Dan's not get his boy in on the odd emergency loan? And I think that's everything. Well, Glenn has put something, and I'm pretty sure Jen has it in hers as well. So he has put, I think Leamington could struggle this season. And in Jen's predictions for the relegated teams, she's put Radcliffe, Leamington, Oxford City and Marine. Does anyone else think Leamington could struggle potentially this season?
Potentially. I can see why Jen has probably gone for them. Obviously losing Callum Stewart, he scored all the goals last season, obviously now at Shrewsbury. And they haven't really got that recognised striker that I would say is going to step up in his absence. Yeah. But they got a good manager in Paul Holleran. He always overachieves at this level. And I expect he'll do it again. He usually gets his recruitment spot on. And he actually found Callum Stewart playing right down lower in the pyramid at, I think it was step 5, I think it was, at Coventry Sphinx. So he'll find a player or two to make sure that they've got enough to stay up, in my opinion.
I want us to talk a little bit more because it's mine next. I'm scared. So, my relegated teams. Sorry, Ben, go on.
No, it's not. You go ahead. That's fine.
My relegated teams are Marine, Scarborough, Oxford City, and then I went for Worksoff as well. The reason I went for Marine, as much as it pains me, because it was one of my favourite players when he was at Dale, but Bobby Grant is obviously manager there now. And as much as I love him and he's had a really good career as a player, I just think he might be that little bit inexperienced at the moment, considering that they've struggled in the past. I think he's that little bit inexperienced as a manager. So that's why I'm kind of heading towards Marine, and it does pain me because I love Bobby Grant as well. Obviously, Brad Holmes has moved to Curzon Ashton, one of the players, and they do have experience. I will give them that, Marine, in Chris Doyle and Adam Thomas. They've done it at them levels before, but like I mentioned, I just feel like Bobby Grant's inexperience could potentially lead them to relegation. I'm hoping I'm wrong. I really am.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I would add on Marine, I think you're right to point out, obviously Bobby Grant. They had Neil Young last year, who was their manager, who's now moved upstairs in sort of a director of football role. And certainly if I was going to pick or something to bet on for this season, not that we condone betting, otherwise you don't want to get an FA ban. But, certainly one thing I'd bet on is that Neil Young is back in charge of Marine at some point this season, because he showed last year that he could keep them up, and I think it will be a difficult season for them.
Yeah, I think as well with what Marine, like I said, got, and obviously Neil Young knowing the club really well, probably isn't a bad thing maybe to be in a director film, because at least he's still got a foothold and what goes on and everything like that, and he can sort of guide Bobby Grant a little bit. But it is one of them where, you know, like you say, an experienced manager, they've been used to doing things now for a few years, and that's what's made them successful. Obviously, with the way Neil Young's got about it, obviously they've gone from 8th tier to National North in, you know, in sort of the last 4 or 5 years, and obviously with FA Cup run as well on top of that. It's big shoes to fill for Bobby Grant, but again, like I say, it goes one way or the other, and I think you'll probably see that maybe in the opening month of the season to see if he's really got it, to see if he can maybe just take them, you know, that maybe that step up in that, and maybe make sure they're a little bit more comfortable this year. But I think, like as Joe says, I think, you know, if it doesn't go to plan, then obviously Neil Young will be the first man to go back in charge in the fields till the end of the season. So I think that's why I think I didn't put them down, because I think they'll still be comfortable regardless.
Scarborough was a choice for me because I feel like, to be fair, they have kept quite a key core of last season's squad, which I thought is obviously quite promising. But I feel like the relocation, they're having to play the games at Bridlington, aren't they? And I think they'll be under masses of pressure. And just as a football fan, and going to your home games and having, obviously, going to your home ground, it's like that's your fortress, isn't it? And I just don't know if that will unsettle Scarborough a little bit. I don't know if any of you guys agree on that.
Yeah, I mean, you always, any team that play at home, you want to make it, like you said, your fortress. That's where you want to win most your games to help you in the season. So yeah, them not playing at their ground, I think is, in a way, could be why we've chosen them as well, because they can't make it their own. So that I probably agree with you, Charlotte. Yeah, they are going to struggle not being at home this season.
And we just to add on that, we saw last year, obviously, with, was it Farsley, who obviously went down, who couldn't play their games at home because of their pitch problems. So especially given that the North is so spread out in terms of where the teams are based, because you've got the more southern teams with the likes of Oxford, etc. It does hinder teams.
In the chat, Glenn's put Coventry won promotion playing at St Andrews, not their home ground. That is true. I'm hoping they prove me wrong. And Scarborough used to play at Bridlington before Scarborough Ground was built, so they could either be an advantage or a disadvantage. That's true. That is true. And obviously, my last one is Works Uptown, and I'm going to be completely honest. I was reading through a few people's predictions and stuff because I'm not really well up on Works Uptown and stuff. I will hold my hands up, but reading through them, and I just feel like the step up could be a challenge for them. As I've said, I'm not too well up on them, so I do apologise. And another thing that did stand out to me as well, I think it's the first time that they've been back in this league for almost, is it 20 years? So I don't know if the step up and they'll be able to cut it, but I know they've made some signings and stuff. And to be honest, looking at a few of the predictions from other people, apart from people on this podcast, they've actually got them to finish reasonably high in the league. So who knows with my predictions?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always difficult to know how teams will step up to the level.
Yeah.
I have got them fairly comfortably safe. I think they've got good experience in their side. You know, they've got the likes of Joe Lynn, Hamza Ben Sharif. That's just to name two that have played at this level a lot. And they'll have goals as well. They got Liam Hughes, who can't stop scoring, albeit lower. And they got a couple of National League North strikers as well, the likes of Aaron Martin, that's played in the National League with Harrogate. So, and I would imagine that of the teams that have come up, they've got the bigger ability to go and spend. So I think they'll have enough.
We have got as well in the chat. Oh, just wanted to support. You're all awesome. Thank you so much for that. I do really, really appreciate it. Right. Going on to the next ones. I know, Lee and Ben, you didn't do this section. You just put your winners. So, Morgan. So, Enterprise National League North, Morgan's predictions for the playoffs. So, he has got AFC Fylde, Chester, Chorley, Buxton, Spennymoor Town, and Kingsland Town. Good
Probably
shouts from Morgan.
Yeah, I think that's straightforward, really. As I think a good thing, because I think it's already been said in the chat as well. I think Buxton are probably going to have potential to be one of the dark horses this year, and I think now they'll be a bit more settled into full time. I think they can really sort of take that next step forward and maybe go towards, maybe even towards a title challenge. Who knows? Because obviously the pressure, I think, for me is even going to be the likes of your Kidderminsters and Fylde and all that. But I mean, spending more, obviously, because Chris knows, that they went on a fantastic run last year and just fell short at the last. And I think maybe if they can carry that momentum from the end of last season, they can probably give it a good go again. And like I say, they're on a club again spending well above their weight. That's the thing. And they always seem to, as they've now established themselves at this level. And again, they are a club that seems to be just going up and up. And I think there's got to be a point now where they probably will get a chance in the playoffs. And I think all the other ones are sort of the usual suspects you sort of expect to be in there, but it is difficult to say because you've still got Hereford and that, they'll want to have a go for it again. And like I say, with maybe even some of the newly promoted teams, they might take that momentum in. Like I say, talk about your Workshops, if a few of them are obviously tipping to do well, they might even have a go, towards that last playoff place. Who knows? It is difficult to say, but it's about, like I say, as expected, I would say, for the playoff Barry Morgan's put.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's nice to see some different teams in there because I've actually got four of those that are in your Morgan's playoffs that I've not got in the playoffs. So that's good to see. The one thing I would add on Spennymoor is they've lost probably their best player in Rhys Staunton, who's gone into the Football League. So that's obviously disappointing for them. But yeah, I mean, most people will have most of those teams in and around it.
I've just realised as well, I've completely skipped the chat's relegation teams. What a pleb. I'll do it all after this. What an absolute idiot. As I did it, I thought, what are you doing? So, Joe, your prediction for the playoffs are Kidderminster Harriers, Buxton, AFC Fylde, Darlington, Radcliffe and Macclesfield.
Yeah, so I suppose go in order. Kidderminster obviously got a really, really good coach now in Adam Murray. Defensively, really added well and retained well from last season. And I think given what Adam Murray did at Eastbourne, I think we have a rough idea of what he's going to do with this Kidderminster team. The one criticism that I perhaps do have is I don't think they'll score enough goals, and that's why I've not put them to win the league. Obviously, they lost the best player in the league in Ashley Hemmings, who's gone to Dagenham, and I don't feel that they've got enough creativity or goals from open play to go and win that league, albeit you don't have to score goals to win the league. You don't have to do it with being strong defensively, but I think they'll just fall short. Agreed with AFC Fylde and Buxton. Obviously, if AFC Fylde keep Nick Horton, they'll be in and around it. And I think they've got a really good up-and-coming manager in Craig Mahon as well. And I imagine, given that they're full-time still, they'll be able to recruit really well. They've gone slightly on the younger side with their signings, which was one of my fears last year, that they went a bit too on the younger side and struggled. But I expect them to be close. Buxton, obviously, again, full-time, did really well last year. Got a couple of really good midfielders, Keane Coleman and Tate Campbell, who I'm surprised is still at this level, to be honest. I expected him to go up. Darlington, the one thing for them last year is they didn't score enough goals, and barring Paul Blackett, who obviously plays for South Shields, I think they've got the best striker in the league in Aidan Rutledge. Paid a fee for him from Gateshead, scored a lot of goals last year. Haven't got the biggest of squads, but I expect that they'll be pretty competitive. Obviously, Radcliffe, I know Ben put them to go down. I do like Bernard and Jono. I think they're good managers, very rarely outside of the top 7. I actually went big on them last year, perhaps a year too early, but I think they will have learnt from last year. They've added a couple of really good players as well. Dan Gardner's just got promoted with Oldham to the Football League. He's signed for them. And also John Taylor, who's played hundreds of games in the Football League as well. So I think they'll be good. And then the last one is Macclesfield. Ben mentioned about a team coming up potentially could carry that momentum forward. And even though they've lost Robbie Savage and even though they've lost probably 3 of their best players, I think still think they'll be there or thereabouts. They've added some really good players this summer. Obviously got fairly big budget, I would imagine, given they're really well supported by their owner. I think they just signed a player that you will know well, Shah, Luke Matteson, who obviously came through at Dale, who I imagine will be one of the better players in his position for the level. And they've got good resource and good backing, and obviously they score a lot of goals. So that's my playoffs.
It gave me one of the best moments at Manchester United back kid. Absolutely love him. It's just a shame. I think a lot of pressure got put on him too early, being so young. So I really do hope he can find his feet and reestablish his career, because he was a really good really good player.
Did he move to Wolves as well?
Yeah, he moved to Wolves. And then from there, I think because obviously it was on that platform when he scored for us against Manchester United, and everyone could see that. And it was such a good moment. But then so many people came in for him. And I think it might have just been that little bit too early for him. And then, bless him, I know he's had injuries, and I just think it's not really worked out since. So hopefully, fingers crossed. At Macclesfield as well, a really good club that he can do it. A local club as well, because I think that was his problem. I think he was homesick and things, because he's still really young, isn't he, really? Right, Jen's predictions for the playoffs. She has put AFC Fylde, Buxton, Spennymoor Town, Hereford, Kingsland Town, and Kidderminster Harriers. What are we all thinking about that one?
That's I present that's from what I know, the National League North. That's not a bad choice at all. I would probably say out of that, Kidderminster I can see going up through the playoffs. I think they'll be quite a strong side this year. But yeah, apart from that, I think it's not a bad selection.
Yeah, we've not really spoken a lot about Kings Lynn either, and the fact that they're sort of always there and thereabouts in that. Obviously, they're only National League a couple of years ago, so they'll be looking to bounce back and everything. And I think again, them to be back in the playoffs is the minimum that they should be pushing for. Really, again, is it a little bit too early for them to really have a crack at the National League? I'd probably say so at this moment in time. But if they got sort of 6th or 7th, I think they'll be absolutely delighted to get that. So I think that's probably where you'd expect them to be honest.
Well, one thing that I'll be interested to see, obviously, with Jen's predictions there, that given that she's got AFC Fylde and Buxton and Kidderminster all in her playoffs, who she's going for to win the league.
I know. I'm not giving any spoilers. The only thing I would mention as well, and I know I picked them up quite a bit, but then having a conversation with you, Joe, I think it was on last week's podcast about Hereford. I just don't know what to expect from Hereford, because I think they've got a really good manager in Paul Caddis, but like we said about the Fano model, they've lost players, haven't they? I know they've recruited some, but it's not as well as potentially like previous seasons. So I think that's the only one where I'm thinking, I'm not really sure about.
Yeah, I mean, that would be the one out of those that I would look at and wouldn't be overly sold on. I agree with you. I love Paul Caddis. I think he's, certainly as a fan, that's what you want, a really passionate coach. He communicates really well with the supporters. And, I think he's actually overachieved in the 2 seasons he's had there. So it wouldn't surprise me if he does it again. But they've lost a couple of big players, obviously Tate Campbell, that we've already mentioned, and Jaden White, who's gone to Sutton. So that's 2 of their midfield that's gone. And of the players that they've come in, I'm not overly thrilled. It doesn't make me suddenly look at them much better than what they were last year. So but Paul Caddis has done really well, so it wouldn't surprise me if they sneak in.
Right, I can't remember who I've had now. AFC Fylde, Kingsland Town, Macclesfield, Chester, Darlington, and Chorley I've had. So AFC Fylde, similar to everyone else, I think obviously a lot of it comes from whether they can keep Nick Horton. I think they will keep Nick Horton. I know he's been linked with Forest Green, I think, at the moment, which I'm fuming about, because if he came to anyone, I was hoping he'd come to us, because we get heavily linked to him every single season. But a lot of the things I agree with what you said, Joe, on that one. Kingsland Town, I think last season, and the way obviously the way last season, and they finished. And I think they've recruited really, really well this season. So I think Kingsley Town are a massive shout. Macclesfield, as you said as well, Joe, I think despite losing Robbie Savage, I think they've got, is it Rooney now they've got in Macclesfield?
John Rooney, yeah.
Yeah, so obviously they've got the experience there. They have lost players, but as you said as well, I think they do have quite a good budget behind them, and what they're building and the plan that they did have, despite losing Robbie Savage, I don't feel like they'll suffer. I think they will obviously be stable and they'll do well in National League North.
Yeah, I mean, you've obviously put Chester in there, and obviously we had Hereford on the last one. If Macclesfield are in and around that sort of 6th, 7th spot come sort of middle of the season, they're the one team that you'd imagine can then go and sign a couple more players, whereas the likes of Chester and Hereford probably, given that or Darlington as well, given that they're sort of fan-owned, perhaps can't do that. So
yeah. Chester, I based it on obviously what they did last season, and I feel like they do have quite a good squad together. As you said, though, I feel like potentially they couldn't get the signings and bring them in if they needed to, like your Macclesfields and stuff. Darlington, obviously, with Rutledge, as we mentioned, and I feel like they have recruited quite well. And obviously, Chorley, I did get to see them, to be fair, in the pre-season friendly. We had to bring Emmanuel Desiree in to obviously win the game. But watching them, they played very, very well. They did well last season as well. And yeah, I just feel Chorley have a real shot again.
Yeah, they're one of those teams that sort of go under the radar.
Yeah.
They don't really have any stars in their team. Obviously, Mark Ellis is the one that you would look at, given that he got double figures last year for goals and he's a centre-back. But they just strike me as sort of a really hard-working team that sort of go under the radar. I haven't got them in mind, but I think they'll be very close to it because they're always there or thereabouts.
Is there anybody wants to call me out for?
No,
No.
really.
I mean, I would have said Darlington, but obviously now you mentioned about Rutledge. You know, that's the thing. You need a goal scorer, and that's the thing. Ultimately, I think every team that gets into the playoffs, you need a striker that's going to score about 15, 20 goals at least for you. And you have that, then you've done half the job, I think. So, you know, having that sort of experience now and having played at a much higher level, I think that will keep him in good stead. So, you know, that probably isn't a bad shout. And to be fair, like I say, he's probably suspect, so I probably maybe expect to be in there. So it's not a bad shout.
It's made me laugh. I've just put it up, but that comment of Chris's. That's why they'll make it. So now we are on to obviously playoff winners. So Ben's prediction is playoff winner AFC Fylde.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's sort of just going logically, you know, going by the past and that thing, like what the club expect there, you know, with the resources they've got in comparison to a lot of teams there. I think they're having a pretty good pre-season at the moment. And, you know, again, they've always been one of those sides you'd expect to be in the top three, you know, when they've been in this division. I don't know what it is, because obviously it wasn't that long ago. They were, you know, challenging to become a football league club. It was only, I think 6-7 years ago when they played Salford in the final. So it's one of those where they need to get back there, I think, as soon as possible. I think it's a bit of a, you know, it's been a difficult time for them last year. I think they really struggled in that to get anything a run going. And I think they just maybe need a season again to sort of regroup and then again go up and see if they can, you know, first of all consolidate and then push for the Football League, which is, I'm guessing there is still their aim because they've been aiming for it for years. So I think that, you know, just going by what they know, you know, they know the level really well. I think they'll have the resources and that to get it over the line. But again, it's going to be so tough because there's, like I said, about a good 3 or 4 teams I could have really picked. But I think just from my experience in that, I think Fylde will probably have enough to do it.
Lee's prediction for his playoff winner is Chester. Go
Yes.
on, Lee.
So what I will say now as well is when we did these predictions, you'll probably find that I only picked the winners of all 3 divisions for playoffs.
So did I. Don't worry.
I didn't realise we were picking teams.
Neither did I.
But yeah, I think a couple of people said in their things they've got Chester in there. I just see out of all those teams that have been spoken about tonight, I think Chester are the strongest side, and I could see them winning the playoffs. They've been there a few years now, and I think it's their time to make their way back up to National League.
Next is Morgan's prediction is playoff winners are Chorley.
Yeah, certainly an outside shout, but they don't concede many. And, I think they're a side that, certainly got quality from set pieces. And if they did win the playoffs, then you could probably put your money on Mark Ellis scoring the winner.
Yeah.
Certainly a rogue shout.
Joe, your prediction, playoff winners are Kidderminster Harriers.
Yeah, I mean, it was a difficult one to pick, really, because I don't think they'll finish second, and I don't actually think they'll finish in the top three. But in terms of winning a playoffs, I think Adam Murray's the sort of manager that will defensively is really strong. And as we saw last year with Boreham Wood and Maidstone in the south, you don't actually have to be that good going forward to get through to a final. You just got to be quite solid. Don't make mistakes and take your chances when they come. So, yeah, for me, Kidderminster, I don't think they'll be top three. But if you were putting your money on someone to get through a playoffs, they'd be my pick.
Jen's prediction for the playoff winner, again, is AFC Fylde. And, yeah, mine's the same. So Charlotte's prediction, AFC Fylde. We will quickly go on to now, obviously, National League North. Ben's predictions as the champions. He has picked Kidderminster Harriers.
Well, I mean, look, they've been close, before, and obviously, look, they had it taken away from them on the last day of the season. Obviously, I know a lot has changed at the club, over the summer. Obviously, with new management, Adam Murray going in, and they've lost obviously a top goal scorer in Hemmings, which obviously again would be a bit of a blow to them. And that maybe think a little bit more about. I think actually they're going to have enough. I think he's brought in a few of the Eastbourne boys. He's taken a few of the Eastbourne players with him, and he got a good reaction. He got them to play in a style that worked for them. And I think again it'd be a bit more pressure on it, maybe in comparison to Eastbourne. Albeit they put a lot of money in at Eastbourne, they did last season. But I think Kidderminster Harriers, just I think with the fans, it's a bigger fan base. It's probably a higher expectation to get out of the division. They're one of those sides you expect in the top three, top four, pretty much every year if they're in that division. And I just think, like Adam Murray, fresh new start for him. Go in there, get promotion first year, and then try and consolidate in the National League. I think that's the key for them. But I just feel like, that maybe they've got enough about them. And like I say, when they get their stadium and that, right behind them and that, the fans, it's because it's such an enclosed ground. It's very difficult and that for away teams to get going sometimes. And I just feel like they can make it a fortress there, like they have done, to be fair, in recent years, and they've got every chance of doing it. But I just feel like they're going to have enough experience and that to get them over the line to, back to the National League, which I feel like is where they naturally should be as a club.
Sorry, just highlighting some of these comments. As though I've just ignored the whole chat. Sorry, guys. I'll get my buttons working. So, Lee's prediction for champions, Chester.
Yeah, I think that's it. Should have been Kidderminster playoffs, Chester champions.
Right.
So yes, so to turn that back around. I still think it should have been Chester playoffs, Kidderminster champions.
I'll double check on your pictures.
Double check, because I'll double check as well.
You've got Chester as winners and playoff winners, Kidderminster.
So Kidderminster going in the playoffs, winning that, and exactly what Ben just said really about Kidderminster, new manager who did well with Eastbourne last season. So I think they've got a proven manager behind them there. So I think they'd be fine for playoffs. And then Chester champions. It's like I said, it's their time.
Yeah.
So I can see them going up.
Morgan's predictions again, Kidderminster for champions. Joe. So Joe's predictions for champions, Kings Lynn Town.
Yeah, bit of a surprise. Obviously, I think Ben raised an eyebrow there. Yeah, for me, I mean, in terms of if I was, writing down sort of 8 or 9 different things that I would look for in a team that's going to go and win the league, I think Kings Lynn tick all of those boxes. Obviously, they got into the playoffs last season. They managed to retain a good couple of players from that team. On paper, I feel that they've got a stronger squad than they had last year. Obviously, the manager, James Rowe, he's not usually that far away with teams. Did it with AFC Fylde, did it with Gloucester, did it with Chester as well. They've got a couple of players in their team that have been promoted from the level before, the likes of Michael Clunan, obviously just come and won promotion with Scunthorpe, like so Adam Marriott as well. And they got a couple of really good young players, Crowther at the back, as well as Ty Fleming, who James Rowe's a fantastic coach, and I expect that they will really have good seasons and improve. And then to top it all off, obviously, Ben's already said you need goals, and they've got 3 players there in Goldon Matteo, and the other 2 names escape me, Adam Marriott and Michael Giassi, who obviously they signed from Peterborough Sports, who, I'd put my money on all of them to get double figures at least next season. So, yeah, they've obviously got a good backing in terms of support from the owner as well. He's been at this level for a number of years. And ultimately, I don't think James Rowe gets the credit he deserves. He's a good manager at the end of the day, and he builds competitive sides that play good football. And he's got a nice balance of his squad. So, for me, they're the winners.
Chris has put Paul Kings Lynn have to come to Spennymoor Town on a Tuesday night in the middle of August. Ouch. Does that change your prediction, Joe?
They're doing a cold Tuesday night in Spennymoor.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, it is a fairly young squad, Kings Lynn's, but I almost see Kings Lynn a little bit similar to Barnet from last year. They've got that energy off the ball. I think that's one thing that you're seeing now more so than ever is teams that do well in non-league are teams that have got lots of energy and running off the ball, and they've got a lot of that in their team, as well as a little bit of experience and leadership for the level. So, yeah, a bit of a road pick, but for me, certainly on what we know at the moment, obviously AFC Fylde may go out and add more by the start, but for me, Kings Lynn are the pick.
We've got another one as well. I'm hoping. Let me double check. I think this one's right of Jen's. If I'm getting all thingy now because I did that one mistake. Jen's. She has put Chester, yeah. So her champions are Chester, same as yours, Lee. You and Jen are on the same page here.
Yeah, I think she's telepathically. We've got it.
I love that. And my prediction, same as yours, Ben. Kidderminster Harriers. Similar to what you said. I just think we were obviously so close last season. Not the easiest place to go as well. Like Joe said, I think at the moment they are lacking goals, but they're very good defensively. And yeah, just cannot write Kidderminster off. I went for them. But before I go to these questions, I've got a fun little game. So everyone in the chat get involved. I will go to everyone's comments in the chat. So Thomas put Buxton dark horses to win National League North, kept all best players from last season and signed Hereford and Leamington's best. Then we have Chris, he's put, for me, relegated Peterborough Sports, Leamington, Oxford and Southampton. Not Southampton, Southport. What am I on tonight? Seriously, it's gone to my head. It's gone to my head. Scarborough with the team, going back to Darlington might affect them. Yep. We have got Johnny as well. I'm such a ditz. Honestly, I'm so ditzy. Johnny, my relegated teams will be South Shields, Radcliffe, Bedford, and Southport.
Wow, I mean, I just got to put a point down. So if South Shields get relegated with Paul Beckett in their team, then something has gone drastically wrong.
Wow, Johnny, very controversial. Very, very controversial. Chris has put, obviously, this is opposite for me. I know more about the north rather than the south. Glenn has put, I think Leamington could struggle this season. And he's also said Peterborough Sports. Got a quick question as well. Jamie has put, how many of the National League North teams are hybrid / full-time?
I don't have the number off the top of my head, but I'd imagine probably 4 or 5 now are full-time. Obviously, you got Fylde who came down, you got Buxton who are already full-time, and you know the likes of Kidderminster will be closer to full-time than they are hybrid. So, yeah, that's the way the leagues are going now. Obviously, Jamie's little old Chippenham are still part-time. Yeah.
Chris has pointed out the money South Shields has spent on players is bonkers if they get relegated. Johnny loves to be controversial. Chester champions, Kiddy win the playoffs. Jamie has put, and then we've got some more. Glenn has put, I'm going to take Macclesfield and Hereford for the playoffs. Chris has put, playoff winner for me, Chorley. He's put his playoffs as well. Buxton, Chorley, South Shields, Hereford, Kingsland Town, Macclesfield. Paul has put Kingsland in the National League North. We've got Chris as well as put the squad isn't a finished squad either at Macclesfield. There is definitely money available. Glenn has said that Macclesfield are his playoff winner. Chris has put Chorley have done it before, they can do it again. Chris has said winners Chester. Glenn has put Spennymoor. Don't know if that was to impress you, Chris. I'm not too sure. Going to try Chester again for winning the title like last season. And he's also put Finlay Shrimpton signed for Chester after being at Scunthorpe on loan at Spennymoor, so he'll be a difference at Chester. Very good player. He certainly impressed against us in that game I will not talk about ever again. Champions, this is Luke. Champions, Kidderminster Harriers, and playoff winners, Chester. So I do have a couple of questions. I just thought it'd be quite nice to look on at the end of the season. A little bit of a fun game so everyone get in the chat, get involved. So Lee, I'm going to come to you first. Your surprise package of the season in the National League North, who do you think?
I'm going to go, as the name's been floated about, I'm going to say Chorley. I think they'll be the surprise package this season. See, their name's been mentioned quite a lot, so I have to go with Chorley.
Ben, your surprise package of the season?
I think they tend to go under the radar a little bit sometimes, but I think I'm going to go for Curzon Ashton. I think they're always there and thereabouts they are, so I think yeah, I would definitely throw them in amongst near the playoff mix anyway.
Joe?
Yeah, Ben nicked my pick there, unfortunately, with Curzon. Yeah, I agree with Ben on that. The other one I would pick who haven't really been talked about yet is Peterborough Sports.
Yeah.
Massive fans of what they're obviously got joint managers, Michael Gass and Luke Steele. They've lost a couple of key players, the likes of Giassi, but they've also brought in a couple of players that I really like. Shaquille Coulthurst, I think, is going to score quite a few goals for them. Obviously, let go by Maidstone. Yeah, they've signed largely younger players, but they've signed a couple of players that I really like, and they've actually signed one from Australia as well. Australia over to Peterborough Sports. So, yeah, they would be my dark horses for me, because I think most people have got them down to struggle.
Just in the chat, we have Chris. He's put surprise package Alfreton Town, and Luke has put Spennymoor Town. I think everyone's just in the chat to impress you tonight, Chris. There's been a lot of sweet talking, Chris. Next one is club with the most pressure on them. Joe, I'm going to come to you first. Who do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it would have to be Fylde. I think if they keep Nick Horton, I think they can probably say that they've got the best player on their day in the league. Obviously, good back in full time. I think they're full time, or certainly closer to full time than most. Obviously, they've got a couple of good players in their team as well who shouldn't be at the level. So yeah, that whenever a Fylde are in the league, they're always one of the teams that you would expect to be up there. So I think, I don't know, I haven't looked at the odds for the league, but I would imagine they're most people's favourites to win it.
Ben, who do you think has the most pressure on them?
I'd probably have to go in agreement, just because Fylde are one of those clubs that always tend to spend a lot of money. And that's probably more than they've got to spend, to be honest, because look, their ambition, obviously, as I said earlier, they are wanting to get into the EFL. And I think just because of the standards and that sort of thing that they set themselves every single season, whether it's this division or the National League. And like I said, Nick Horson's obviously someone that has played at this level for a fair few years. And, and surprisingly, no one's really taken a punt on him, actually above, to be fair. So again, it's if they can get the best out of them, and I just think, that just financially in that, I think it's going to be on fire. But then again, Kidderminster, I don't think we'll be too far behind that, because their fans will expect, especially after the season they had last year, a lot of expectation beyond them to deliver this year.
Yeah, Chris and Luke, both in the chat, have mentioned Kidderminster. Lee, who do you reckon have the most pressure on them?
Kidderminster. Exactly like everyone said, like Ben said, with how they did last season, I think they're going to have. they're going to have. They're going to have the most. Kidderminster with the most pressure.
So to make it fair, Ben, I will come to you first now. First manager to be sacked. I know it's not a fun question, by the way. So any of the managers, I promise, I hope none of you get sacked. But
well, I mean,
first manager to be sacked.
I think I've just seen Spenny Chris put it in. I think Southport probably will struggle this year. Neil Dan's is a young manager coming into the game, and it is a difficult one for them, because, like I say, they've lost a fair few key players, and every sort of year by year they've slowly been slipping down the table, and that even more. And I do think they'll probably be in a relegation battle again. And I think just because that club's, a very much high expectation of, where they've been. I mean, obviously a decade ago, they were playing National League football. And I think, you look at the stature of the club, the stadium, and you think, look, they should be pushing towards a playoff place. And I think just because the high demands that the supporters set probably, for a club of that stature, I probably would say that he's probably going to be under the most pressure probably at the start to get him off to a good start. Because otherwise, if you can probably see him going after the first month and a half or so, if it doesn't get off to the winning start that Southport will probably expect. So I would say Neil Dan's for me.
Lee, I'll come to you next.
I would have to say Southport's manager, is it Jim Bentley? I think he could probably be the first one to go this season.
Oh, Lee, you proper tickled me there. I'm sorry.
No, I said I don't know much about National League North, so that's all. Yeah.
Ben's just been talking about it.
Has he? Oh, sorry, I thought it was someone else. Yeah, I'll agree with Ben. Jim Bentley.
It's not Jim Bentley.
Is it not?
No, Neil Dan's.
Neil Dan's. Sorry, Neil Dan's.
Joe, who do you think? Jim Bentley?
Not Jim Bentley. I think we've probably already mentioned him briefly. Bobby Grant, probably.
Yeah.
I think if Marine get off to a poor start, I think, especially with them moving into their new stadium, as Ben said, the key for them is just staying up. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if Neil Young comes into the dugout. The one rogue shout that I will put in there, because I know there's a lot of pressure on him to win the league, certainly from the predictions that people have done. But I wouldn't be at all surprised if Chester, because I didn't even have them in my top 7.
Yeah.
They've lost a couple of real key players, one of which the Football League, and I think their squad's way short of last season. So, especially given the pressure on them to do well, if they don't, I wouldn't be at all surprised if they make a change. That being said, I really like Callum McIntyre. I think he's a fantastic coach, but unfortunately, there's no sentiment in football. If you're struggling and you don't get the results, then most teams make a change. So.
And I'm going to come back to you for this one, Joe. Top goal scorer in the National League North.
I was shining a light on someone that we haven't really talked about their team. I'll go for Paul Blackett. Obviously, set South Shields. I do have one or two concerns that potentially the fact that that South Shields, I think, are going to be a little bit more possession based, and aren't going to be as direct into him.
Yeah.
Would affect him, but Paul Blackett would be my pick. If I had to go with a rogue shout, I'll go with Sean Jeffers at Bedford, which is a little bit outside the box, but I think they're probably a club that I omitted from surprise package. Brilliant manager in Lee Bircham, and he always gets the best out of players. And whilst he didn't do that well last year, I imagine that Sean Jeffers will be back to the Sean Jeffers of old for Bedford this year.
Lee, I'll come to you next, and do not say Jim Bentley.
Andy Carroll. Right. Do you know, honestly, I couldn't say on that one. I don't know many of the players in National League North. So I would have to leave it there with that. I can't give you that one. I need to read up a bit.
Ben, who would you go for?
Do you know what? I think Joe's actually hit the nail on the head a little bit, because I completely forgotten that Sean Jeffers has gone to Bedford. And look, I think last year was a bit of a difficult season for him, because I don't know what it is with St Albans, because he seems to be stuck on the bench a lot. I mean, when you look at his goal scoring record, it's actually quite unbelievable, for National South. And I think the only thing is, would he be able to adapt to the National North? Because I think they're two very contrasting leagues in terms of style of play and everything like that, and the way the team's set up. But I think, just because I think it's difficult. I mean, look, you haven't even mentioned obviously the likes, because the man that we always seem every time we were talking about spending more last year, we talked about Glenn Taylor every week, didn't we? And I know the only thing is age is catching up a little bit. He is getting a bit, he's in mid-30s now, so I think him to be top goal scorer in the National might be a bit of a demand. But I think just because obviously we've probably spoken about him a lot, and particularly with him coming back now into the division, I think Nick Horton at Fylde, you'd probably expect at least 20 odd goals. So I would probably go him, but then Sean Jeffers won't be too far behind.
The other one that I wanted to highlight, who obviously I think Shah, he was at Rochdale as well, who also is new to this league, who I think many of their fans expected him to be perhaps in the Football League this year, is Damani Mellor at Macclesfield. Was amazing last year for them, scored so many goals. I think Macclesfield were a bit surprised that they even kept hold of him. And if they're going to finish high, as I think they will, then I imagine he'll be amongst the goals.
Very good shout. I completely forgot about it. Very good player at that level. Right, I'm just going to warn you as well. I do have these questions for the National League South too. But predictions. Everyone in the chat, please get them ready. I will try and get onto them by each segment, which I didn't previously, so I do apologise. So, Ben, Enterprise National League South, Ben's predictions for relegation. Enfield Town, Tonbridge Angels, I can never say, is it Chesham or Chesham?
Chesham, yeah.
Yes, it's my northern accent. And Hampton and Richmond.
Yeah, I mean, it was, as you know what, I found this the toughest one to do, just because I'm looking at a lot of the teams in the National South this year and thought how much money's been spent around and how competitive it's going to be. I've sort of looked around further down the table and thought, right, okay, who's probably budgets, they're probably going to catch up with them a little bit. And Enfield Town was the obvious one. That, don't get me wrong, they've done a fantastic job last year in staying up after, for me, I thought they were relegated in January because they were the worst team that we played all year. And then they suddenly just went on this amazing run afterwards. And, they've managed to stay up. But again, they've lost a couple of players. They've brought in the likes of Lamar Reynolds, I think he will do well for them. It'll create a lot of chances. But I did say they'd signed Harry Lodovica, who we had last year. And I'll be totally honest, and there's no disrespect to him, he was one of the worst centre-forwards I've ever seen at this level. If they're going to be relying on him for goals, they are in trouble, to be honest with you. Who knows? He might. This might be where he delivers, but I really can't see him scoring goals for Enfield, so that's why I have them down. And again, second season, for them might catch up a little bit. Tunbridge, I think I had them down last year, but again, I think I underestimate how good Jay Saunders is. I've known him for the time he was with us, but again, they've lost him this year to Folkestone, and they've brought a new manager in from Lewis. It's a big step up for him, and there's a lot of probably pressure on him again because they've had such high expectations at Tunbridge. They've been in and around the playoff area for the last couple of years, and I think that's going to change now because they've lost a couple of players along the way. And I just can't see how they stay up in that, because it's a very young group in that they've got, and there's not many players that have sort of got me off my seat a little bit for them. Although I wouldn't anyway, because I can't stand that club. Yeah, I just think that the adapting is going to be a bit difficult for them. I could probably see them, getting relegated and maybe bouncing straight back. But I just think that, it's going to be too difficult for them this year. In Cheshire, that was probably the hardest one for me to think of, actually, just because I think the management team, the duo, they've done incredible last year. Again, the first season at this level, and they adapted so quickly. They had players, that shown throughout the season. They made it a very difficult place to go for a lot of clubs. It's not the nicest pitch to play on. But I think for me, it was purely down to second season syndrome. And there probably were a few clubs I probably could have picked up on for that. But I just think Cheshire might just struggle in that department, to be honest, this year. And but again, I think if they went down, I could see them straight back. And Hampton, they had a really tough end to the season last year. They lost a lot of players, to injuries, and with the players they brought in this year, there's nothing that's convincing me that they're going to stay up, because they've brought in a lot of players from the lower leagues and that, and again, they've added a little bit of experience, and they've been bringing the likes of Alan Massey from Maidenhead. Again, he's proven himself, but again, he's getting on a little bit, and can he maintain it for another 46 games? And I think that might be key for them defensively, but I just think going forward they're really going to struggle for goals this year. And I don't want to see them going down to Bursley, because it's actually one of my favourite grounds to go to in the league. So I do hope they stay up, but I just, I really hope Alan Julian does prove me wrong, to be honest, because I really like him as a manager and the way he comes across. He's, very refreshing, I find. But I just think that he might struggle a little bit this year with that. And but again, he can only work with the budget he's got with, and I just think they'll struggle a little bit.
Right, the next one. Lee, so your relegated teams: Enfield Town, Tonbridge Angels, Dover Athletic, and Western Supermare.
I can see Joe's expression right there. Now, the Dover one, I'll clear that first. Dover one, to me, they got relegated. They went up last season, but with Dover, you'll notice that they're a bit of a yo-yo team. They go up, they have a good season, they go back down. So I just see that I see Dover as one of the teams going down. Enfield, second season syndrome. They started to pick results up by the end of the season, but I can see second season being too much for them. Tonbridge, the only reason I put them there is because of the manager. Obviously, I watched him at Lewis last season. He had a really good start, won first 5 or 6 out of 6 games, and then all of a sudden they just dropped off. I can see Tunbridge going down because more of the manager. I think it's too much of a step up for him. And Western Supermare, I just thought I'll throw him in there as a bit of a random club that could struggle. So, that's my relegation teams. Jim Bentley, if he's about and he wants to turn up, then why not? Jim, if you watch, help me.
Help me. Funny. Morgan's predictions, his relegated teams: Dover Athletic, Horsham, Enfield Town, and Cheshire. Any surprises there for anybody?
The only thing I would add on, obviously, Ben and Lee obviously both talked about Enfield. I think they got a fantastic manager in Gav McPherson, and I don't think they've perhaps got the quality of others teams in the league, but they didn't have the quality of other teams last year, and they found a way to stay up. In terms of Cheshire, one thing that I always am a big advocate of is don't underestimate teams who get results playing poorly.
Yeah.
Ben will know that firsthand. They may not try to pass the ball as well as other teams, but they find a way to get results.
Right, next ones are yours, Joe. So relegated teams: Horsham, Tunbridge Angels, Dover Athletic, Hampton, and Richmond.
Yeah, so I'll start with the bottom one. I absolutely agree with Ben. I hope I'm wrong in Hampton, but I do hope they stay up. Fantastic little club. Love Alan Julian. I think he's done a great job there. But unfortunately, I think it's always precarious when you've got a starting 11 that relies on fitness. They've got the spine of their team being obviously Alan Massey that Ben talked about, Rohan Ince, who had time out through injury last season, and Reece Grego-Cox, who, as a spine, you would say that's pretty good, but they're not going to play 46 games a season. So whether or not they can get their best team on the pitch every week is a worry. And then obviously the fact they've signed so many from the lower leagues, the depth I don't think is there. Tonbridge, I agree. I actually agree with Lee in that I think Craig Nelson is a fantastic choice for them because the job he's got to do at Tonbridge is very similar to what he had to do at Lewes. Basically a rebuild on a very low budget. They've lost a number of key players and I haven't seen the quality come through this season, during the summer so far to suggest that they're going to suddenly maintain what they did last year. Dover, I hope I'm also wrong on this one because I really like Jake LaBelle, their manager, and I think they're going to go for games. I think they've got lots of goals in their team, fairly young side, but lots of pace. I think when they're good, I think they'll be really good. But unfortunately, I think they're one of those teams that when they're perhaps off it, I think they're going to concede a fair few goals. And then Horsham, obviously, they only got promoted on the final day ahead of 3 teams. So they weren't overly the best team at their level.
Yeah.
And they've signed a lot of experience, but players who I think may struggle on the 3G. Obviously, they brought in Reece Murphy from Dorking. I doubt whether he'll play that many games because he's had his injuries. And they're new to the level. So whereas I look at the likes of an Enfield or a Chesham who've stayed up before, Horsham haven't, and that could work against them.
3 of the teams I've got, you've got Joe, and I've got notes, and you've said a lot of them notes. So I'm just pointing it out. I will prove it as well. I'm not cheating, I promise. I've got my notes. The next one, obviously, Jen, her predictions are Enfield Town, Slough Town, Salisbury, and Tonbridge Angels. Has anybody got anything they want to say about Jen's predictions? Because there's 2 there that nobody's mentioned.
Yeah. Salisbury, go on, Lee.
No, so I literally, I think you just about to say the same as me. I looked at Salisbury and I was like, "Ooh, are they a relegation side?" And then I looked at the other teams. I was like, I'd have to pick the others over them. But I think Joe's sort of going to say same as me. Is it could be a tough one for them.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think I'll come on to talk about Salisbury later in my predictions, but I think they will be a very good side. Yeah. They could have quite easily been a much better side last season. I can't remember the exact number, but I think it's something like 12 games in the league, which they only lost by 1 goal. So, you know, they've signed a really good striker in Matt Taylor from the Football League. So suddenly you only have to turn, say, 3 or 4 of those into wins, and suddenly you're looking much higher up in the table.
I think Salisbury, from what I watched of them last year, especially when they came to the Gallagher, they like to play from the back, they do, and maybe they didn't have the players quite to acquire doing that. And I think where they've made now, you know, probably brought in a lot more experience and players that know the level really well. I think that might better suit them this year. They might get a few more results doing that. I mean, Brian Dustin, you know, I think for what he had last year, I think he did really well to keep him up, to be honest. I think that was the ultimate aim for them. And I can see them really pushing on. I mean, with that squad they've got, they should be looking, you know, much higher at the table, and if not towards the playoffs. Slough, again, you know, Scott Davis has done, you know, a phenomenal job. He's probably one of the most underrated managers at this level.
Yeah.
Because again, Slough are probably one of those sides that everyone always tips to being around the bottom because they're one of the smallest clubs in this division. But you know what? They make it very hard when teams go to Arbor Park. It's not. I always see us go there. We always see us lose there. You know, Scott Davis, what you get from his side is that they work very hard. They work for each other. You know, they're off the ball. They're very good. And they're very organised defensively as well. And set pieces is a big thing for them. I know they've lost obviously a couple of players, and that was the likes of, you know, they've lost Eden Pruti. They've lost you know, Spazov as well. So that might be quite hard to replace, but I still think, look, they always manage to find some gems every year that seem to push on to higher clubs. And I can see Scott Davis doing that again, to be honest. I think they'll be comfortably, again, sort of towards the bottom half of the table, but not in danger of going down for me.
Yeah, so my relegated teams, I've gone for Tonbridge Angels, Enfield Town, Hampton and Richmond, and Dover Athletic. A lot of the points, obviously, very, very similar. The ones I did want to mention, obviously, about Tonbridge Angels, the recruitment hasn't really impressed me, to be fair. Obviously, there's no Jay Saunders now. I think they obviously had a limited budget, like many of the teams down at the bottom of that league. But I feel that did work with Saunders, where I don't think they have the kind of experience now with the new manager. There's very big clubs, obviously, I've mentioned this season. And I just think the lack of experience from, I can't remember, what's the manager called now? Sorry, for Tonbridge.
Craig Nelson.
Craig Nelson. It skipped me, thank you.
Not Jim Bentley?
Yeah, not Jim Bentley.
That's gonna get clipped, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
That's
definitely.
Yeah.
How many times can we say Jim Bentley in a podcast? And one thing I did want to point out about Tonbridge is I don't really see many goals in them by looking at the side. And obviously, you've got massive amounts of pressure on you anyway, being a new manager and doing that jump up so soon. But then obviously having recruitment and not really having them goals behind you, I think will be a massive problem. So that's what I had for Tonbridge. Obviously, same as everybody else on the other ones. And with Hampton as well, similar to you, Joe, I did mention those two players, obviously, Rowan Ince and Reece Grego-Cox. They're very good National League standard players, but they're very, very injury prone.
Yeah.
But yeah, all of them with the same points as you guys as well. Sorry, everyone. I will go back to this. Chris has put no Emil yet. No, I've not actually mentioned them in any of my predictions. Spoiler alert. Oh boy, I'm going to be way off here. Relegated Salisbury, Horsham, Chippenham, and Totton. Wow, Chris. If that comes in and your predictions are right. Luke has put as well, Tonbridge Angels, Enfield Town, AFC Totton, and Chesham United. This is why I love prediction shows, because everyone's are just so different. There's some that are so different, but then there's some that are so similar. But again, like before, Ben, Lee, you didn't send them through. So we're straight to Morgan. So anybody who has just come in, I've not missed them out. Do not worry. Morgan's playoff places. He has gone for Ebbsfleet, Dagenham and Redbridge, Maidenhead, Dorking Wanderers, Worthing and Chelmsford. Ben, I'll come to you actually first on this one. Morgan's predictions. What do you think of his playoff spots?
Do you know what? It's so tough to predict playoffs. I think more than it probably was for me to do the title. I think obviously I didn't send them in, but look, Dagenham, obviously, I fully expect, obviously, with the amount of money that's been invested, the players, and the forward players they've gone for as well. Obviously, obviously, we're not just talking Andy Carroll, see Hemmings coming in, who had a lot of quality to this league. Again, Maidenhead, I'm a bit in and out with them at the moment because I don't potentially see them as going up. But I see maybe being one of those clubs that don't make the playoffs this year, to be honest with you. They managed to keep hold of a few key players. I mean, I was surprised they kept the likes of Will de Havilland, who's probably an established National League defender. I thought he would have stayed at that level, but he's dropped into the National South. So, again, his defensive qualities will help him to keep a few more clean sheets. I think probably the big surprise, and I'm sorry, Lee, but I think Worthing, being in the playoffs, I just haven't seen enough in the signings that they've made that will get him top 7 this year. I don't think they'll be massively far off, but I just can't see them going as well as they did last year. I think there's just a few better teams that've got more goals in them, because to be honest, I would look at the likes of Farnborough going in there as well. We see the amount of goals they've got now in that side, in those front two strikers, Apollyon and Bingham. But and Chelmsford, I fully expect them to be in and amongst that as well. So it's pretty much nearly as straightforward as it can be. Maybe a couple of tiny adjustments, but it's so hard to call for the playoffs this year because there's so many teams that can make it this year.
If you guys as well, if you do want to write down your playoff teams, we'll go back to it at the end of the season. and I'll make a graphic for him.
I'll do that.
So the next one, Joe, your playoff predictions. We have Chelmsford, Dorking Wanderers, Ebbsfleet, Maidenhead, Worthing, and Eastbourne.
Yeah, I suppose the one surprise in there will probably be Eastbourne. I think because they have lost a couple of players, but I think last year showed with Truro the value of having a really good manager. And obviously they got Matt Gray, who knows how to build successful teams. Did it at Sutton, albeit in the level above. They got good back in there, really good ownership, and yeah, they've got a good goal scorer in George Alexander. Whilst I don't think he'll probably play that 40 games a season, they also got Craig Eastman as well, who was Matt Gray's captain at Sutton. So I think they're just going to get into the playoffs. They'll find a way to get in there. Yeah, I actually agree with the last predictions in Maidenhead. They were the one team who I think I was contemplating messaging you last night and saying, can you take them out? So the other team that I was going to put in there was Salisbury. There's always one team that surprises, and I thought potentially they could, but I did go for Maidenhead, mainly because I couldn't not pick them, because for the last 3 years on my blog, I've been banging on about a midfielder called Asher Yearwood, who's finally got a move to Maidenhead. So I can't not now go against him. So hopefully they get in. Worthing, I actually think they will have enough goals. I don't think the likes of Babalola will get that many because he's not really a goal scorer, but I think Brad Dollarhan's a fantastic striker for this level. If they can keep, this is going to test my pronunciation now, if they can keep Odo Quinero, we'll call him Nathan. If they can keep Nathan fit, I think he'll also get goals at this level. And Worthing are a team just generally that perhaps don't have to rely on, say, an Ollie Pearce, because they just have lots of goal threats in their team. Obviously, they kept Jack Spong. Chelmsford, very, very different to last season. Obviously, a new manager, virtually a whole new team. I think Archie Tamplin's the only player that stayed around from last year. Other than that, it's completely different. They've brought in a lot of players that got promoted with Harrop at Braintree, Joe Grimwood being the pick of those, signing from Barnet. And obviously, they managed to get Jack Barham, who I think is going to be a fantastic signing for this level. One that Ben would have seen before. I think they need a number 9 to go alongside him, but I think he will get goals undoubtedly. And then the big one, Ebbsfleet. I think they'll be very close to the title, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if they did win it. Massive squad, big backing, virtually 2 players a position, and it's you look at their squad and the fact that the likes of Charlie Seaman, who obviously left Maidstone, may not even get a pick in their starting 11. It just goes to show the depth that they've got. I do have 1 or 2 concerns potentially over the manager, because Josh Wright is a very new manager. And potentially in those bigger games, he perhaps lacks that experience as a manager to get them over the line. But fantastic squad, lots of players signed from higher leagues, and I expect them to be in there. And then obviously Dorking Wanderers, you haven't talked about them going under the radar. I mean, Dorking, I think, will feel that they missed their chance last year. I mean, they gave everybody 2 months head start at the start of the season and still nearly won it. So, I mean, Mark White gets a team always in and around it. So I expect that they'll be there. And I think he'll actually quite like the fact that most people haven't tipped him to win it, and that it'll go under the radar, because he knows the quality in his squad, and they'll be there or thereabouts.
Right. Next up, we have Jen's predictions for the playoffs. She's gone Worthing, Torquay United, Eastbourne, Hornchurch, Ebbsfleet, and Weston-super-Mare.
Yeah, I mean, the one I instantly touch on is Hornchurch. I think they're obviously, we're going to come on to talk about dark horses later. I think they definitely could be one of those teams we talked about goals. They've obviously brought in Josh Reese, who is now gone part-time because of his wife's had a baby and he's gone part-time. So obviously they've managed to get him. He should be playing in the National League still, maybe even League Two. Obviously bought Charlie Ruffin, and then Joe Taylor, who can't stop scoring goals, albeit at a lower level. Funny enough, their actual Achilles heel last year was scoring goals, whereas in the past with Darryl McMahon, it's been defensively. But yeah, I expect they'll be very close to pushing that top 7 because they've made a couple of really astute additions.
Yeah, I think I'd be agreeing with Hornchurch, and I mean, obviously the big gamble for me is Joe Taylor. I think he's getting in, like I say, I think he's towards mid-30s now. He's jumped up 2 levels, and that is he going to be able to sustain it? I don't think he's going to be one of those to play every single game. I don't think his body's going to have the job to do that. But if he can get you still about 15 goals a season, it's still better than what they probably managed last year. And like I said, Charlie Ruff is probably one of the best goal-scoring midfielders we saw in the league last year with Chelmsford. Always seemed to be in and amongst it, and probably if it weren't for him, I think Chelmsford would have finished much lower down the table, to be honest. And like I said, Josh Rees, easily one of the best midfielders I think we've got in this league, and how they've managed to acquire him is quite remarkable. Again, like I say, they probably would be one of those dark horses this year. And to be honest, I think the fact that Gents put him in there probably makes me feel a little bit better. The fact that I would have probably put him in and amongst it. Again, there might be one of those just to miss out, but I think they would definitely be in the mix in comparison to last year when their season was sort of done with 2 months to go. So, yeah, they'd probably be one of the big surprise packages, I would say.
I'm going to apologise now, Lee, because I haven't put Worthing in mine. Similar to what you said before, Ben. I am sorry. So, I have actually gone in my playoff predictions. Ebbsfleet, Dorking Wanderers, Eastbourne, Maidenhead, Chelmsford, and Dagenham and Redbridge. So, some mad shouts, to be fair. Ebbsfleet, similar to what you said, Joe, I just feel like who they've kept and then the recruitment that they've added already. And I think they'll have a bit of a point to prove, obviously, with having such a bad season last season in the National League. So, yeah, they are one of them. Dorking Wanderers, I just feel like with Mark White, you can never write a Mark White team off. Last season, we saw how strong they could be. I know, obviously, they did tail off, but they still got to, obviously, the playoffs. And I think with Mark White as well, he'll have that little bit of a point to prove. He's got that personality and things about him. Eastbourne I went for. Obviously, Maidenhead as well. I think with Maidenhead last season, similar to Ebbsfleet, I just think they'll have that point to prove. And they've got a lot of good players. Chelmsford I went for, and then obviously Dagenham and Redbridge. I did see a few comments in there by somebody saying that apparently some of the signings that they have made have been injured in pre-season. So I'm like, oh no, that's not good. But Dagenham, I feel like they have spent quite a lot of money, and although that doesn't necessarily mean anything, as we've seen with previous teams and other teams before, I do think obviously they just have that bit of quality about them. So, yeah, random choices.
Yeah, I mean, they were obviously the one team that I think most people had in their playoffs that I actually didn't have.
Yeah.
Which may be a surprise. I suppose as part of my predictions, I did speak to a couple of Dagenham fans, and they're not actually that positive about the season. Yeah. Yes, they brought in the likes of Ashley Hemmings, but I wouldn't put too much value in signing Andy Carroll.
No.
I mean, he's not going to shift the needle in them suddenly winning the league for me. Yes, he's a big name and gets good exposure, but as they saw last year, they don't need exposure. They need some good players. And, you know, I think they've lacked that so far this summer. Interestingly, I actually think Ebbsfleet are a little bit like Maidstone, in that Ebbsfleet went down, but they knew for months before they actually went down that they were going down. So I actually think it's going to help them in that they would have been preparing for months for this summer. So I think that will benefit them as well.
And just on the Worthing thing, why I didn't put Worthing in, similar to what Ben mentioned, and just losing key players as well. I know they've obviously brought some other ones in and recruited, but I just feel the likes of Danny Cashman, when you lose him, obviously Mo Farl as well. So they were my reasonings behind it. But like I said, Lee, I am a jinx, so hopefully they will prove me wrong and you'll have a great season.
No, I agree with what you said. So we've lost some big players, so yeah, it's going to be a tough season.
Right, so we're on to our playoff winners now. Oh, really quickly, sorry, I've done it again. I'm so sorry, everybody. In the chat, we have daggers of their spine players and highest earners already out injured from pre-season. Very suspect recruitment. We have got Chris, he's put playoffs, Dagenham and Redbridge, Worthing, Eastbourne, Dorking, Maidstone, Ebbsfleet, and winners Worthing. Ben, I saw you shake your head, Ben.
No, Sean. Thanks for positivity, Chris. I do appreciate it.
Jamie has put champions, Dagenham and Redbridge, playoffs, Dorking, Maidenhead, Chelmsford, Ebbsfleet, Farnborough, and Torquay. Oh. We've got a question as well, Glenn. Is the National League South arguably the toughest league in England to get promoted from?
I think this year it is. Definitely.
So, yes, Ben, playoff winners, you've gone for Chelmsford.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, I didn't need much thinking on this, to be honest. Look, Angela Harrop's been here and done it with Braintree, again, with a much sort of with less resources. And, look, he's signed probably some of the best players in the division. Obviously, they did their business quite early on. They've got the likes of Ricky Holmes, so we've mentioned Jack Barham, Joe Grimwood. These are very good players for the level. And, I feel like they've got the experience, and obviously they've brought in players as well that know how to get promotion from this league as well. So obviously Grimwood and Barham obviously have done it themselves, obviously. So I think it was a pretty easy choice for me. Again, the only thing that would be the question in the minors, particularly maybe for Chelsea supporters, is they have that playoff hoodoo they can't seem to get over, because how many times they've been involved in playoffs since they've been in this division and they just haven't got over the line. And that's going to, maybe a thing that Harrop's maybe got that secret ingredient maybe to break this year. So I feel like it will be them. Like I said, I don't think Dagenham, I don't think they've got enough this year. I think maybe I think it might be a year too early for them to go straight back up. So I think Chelsea have been waiting for this for so long, and I just feel like it's their time now. Obviously, the money they spent, they can't really afford not to go up this year, to be honest.
Right. Next, we have Lee. You have put Dagenham and Redbridge.
Well, I don't really know what to say after what Ben just said now. So, but I know Benzie doesn't say it, but I just see, I see him going through the playoffs and winning that. Just because I know we said they bought Andy Carroll in. No one's going to expect Andy Carroll to light up the league or anything like that, because we know what Andy Carroll is like. But they've got the investment now as well. So with the help of Andy Carroll and the other players around him, I could just see Dagenham doing it through the playoffs. They're not going to win the league, but I can see him getting there through the other route.
Morgan's prediction is put Dagenham and Redbridge as well as his playoff winners. Joe, your playoff winners, Chelmsford City.
Yeah, completely agree with what Ben said. And they're a little bit like an Oldham from last season in that I don't think they'll be sort of the best of the rest.
Yeah.
But I think they're the sort of team that their aim will be just get in the playoffs. Because if we get in the playoffs, we know how to win them. They've got a nucleus of players that know how to get promoted via the playoffs from this league. And as I say, I don't think they're going to be the best team, but as a collective, I think they're going to have enough to get through the playoffs. Because we saw last year with the likes of Maidstone and Bournemouth, if you're defensively strong, which I expect Chelmsford will be, then they're going to be difficult to beat.
Jen, her playoff winner, she went for Worthing. How much did you pay, Lee? I'm joking.
Love you, Jen.
No, to be fair, though, I know obviously in my predictions I didn't mention Worthing, but even though they have obviously lost key players, the style of football and everything they play, and even to be fair, like I did mention, like recruitment wise and the manager as well. I'm one of them now. I don't want it to come back and bite me on the backside. I've not mentioned them. But yeah, you can't write them off, to be fair, with Worthing. My playoff winners, I have gone for. I'm hoping we get promoted this season. So if this does come true, we don't have to play them because we never get anything against them. But yeah, I've actually gone for Ebbsfleet. As we obviously mentioned before, I just think they've got that strong side. And yeah, that's all I can say about Ebbsfleet. I think we said a lot of that before. But yeah, champions, Ben, Torquay United. There'll be a lot of hearts, Joe. I'm going to tell you that.
Do you know what? It was actually a really easy choice for me. Like, I didn't really think about it too much. That Torquay have kept the bulk of their squad. They've added some real quality. You know, the likes of Worthington coming from Yeovil, Louis Dennis, who, you know, I think is an exceptional signing for this level. Like, he shouldn't be playing there. He should probably still be in the top reaches of the National League. So how they've managed to get him down there, obviously, I know he's moved down that way, hasn't he? So I think that was a big, obviously, plus for him. I just feel like, you know, Paul Wootton now, he's going to have a lot of pressure on him. Don't get me wrong. I think Torquay fans are very expecting, they are. And I think especially after just missing out last year by, let's be honest, a couple of goals, you know, it's really just getting over the line for them now. And I think where Paul Wootton's done now for the last couple of years, obviously with keeping Truro City up, you know, against all the odds. You know, Torquay, again, very, very close last year. Again, just key moments, obviously, in the playoffs, obviously, against Boreham Wood, sort of let them down in the year. And I think they lost it for me, you know, in those last few games. Obviously, they've dropped points as well. But I just feel like, you know, everything's there for the Torquay now. I think they're just, you know, when that fan base gets right behind that team, they're playing more. It's very difficult. And, you know, you can crumble a little bit under pressure. But that's the thing. Torquay can get off to an you know, incredible start, which I sort of really expect them to. And that means even if they have to come to our place second game of the season and beat us, then so be it. But yeah, for me, Torquay win the league. So Joe, I'll take that 20 quid off you later.
Lee's prediction for champions, you've got Dorking Wanderers.
Yeah, I mean, you can never say a Mark White team is going to just sit by and watch the league go by. And I think after that Boreham Wood game last season, he's now going to be even more determined to win that league and go up. Because I think he said at the beginning of last season he wants, I think it was something about he wants 100 points. He wants to win that league and dominate it. So I think he's going to be even more determined this season to not spend another season in the National League South and be back up in the National League. So yeah, I've got Dorking all the way.
Next, Morgan's predictions. He has gone as champions, Torquay United. So that's 2 out of 3 at the moment for you, Joe.
Yeah, I'm considerably out of pocket here at the moment.
You need to promote your book at the end. Get the book sales up, everyone. Joel, what predictions you have gone for yourselves as champions, Torquay United?
Yeah. I mean, I don't think, as Ben said, I don't think it will be plain sailing. I think there will be a lot of pressure on us. But, you know, I think that's partly on ourselves because of the big crowds and the good support. But mainly because I think Paul Watton's done a fantastic job of addressing where we were short. You know, even though we were a couple of goals away, we weren't even ready to go up last season. The midfield wasn't good enough. We've since brought in 4 midfielders that I think would start for most teams in Worthington, Sonny Blue, Sundari and Dolan. We didn't have the depth last year, and whereas this year we've got the likes of Matt Jay and Dan Hayfield, who will probably be on the bench, probably be pushing to try and get into the squad even on a match day. And obviously we've added goals. Obviously Louis Dennis is such a good signing for this level. And one of the things which Paul said last year was that he actually didn't think we managed games particularly well, and that we needed that extra bit of experience on the pitch, and that he was frustrated at times. And the fact that we brought in the likes of Dennis and Worthington, who are captains, they've got success wherever they've been. And we've got a nucleus of players. I think it's 5 or 6 players that have won the league with Yeovil. I think we will have enough to win it. Slightly biased, perhaps, but yeah, I can only speak for obviously what, we are considerably better on paper than we were last year, albeit a tougher league this year. But I think we'll have enough to go up. I don't think it will be easy, and I don't think we'll do it the easy way, because we never do anything easy. But I think we'll have enough to go up.
So that's 3 out of 4 now. What's Jen gonna do? So Jen's prediction as champions: Dorking Wanderers, Lee and Jen again. Like, are you twins?
There's a connection, I'll tell you this. There's something.
Secret Zoom calls are happening, clearly, aren't they?
Yeah, definitely. Believe in us.
I don't know what you're talking about.
But yeah, same as Lee again, Dorking Wanderers. And Shah's predictions as champions, Torquay United. And to be honest, I found it really easy. Like my playoffs and stuff, even in the National League North, I found really hard. But with this one in particular, it was just an easy decision. So don't let me down, Joe.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing I would add on that is I think it would be quite easy for me to come and say, yeah, it was really easy.
Yeah.
I don't think it will be easy. I mean, I think there's a lot of fantastic teams at this level. I could brag about the squad, but I think there's lots of teams with good squads.
Yeah.
Ebbsfleet could quite easily win it. Dorking, we've talked about all the teams. One thing that I think actually will help us is we actually did better last season against the good teams. We had the best record of any team in the league against the top 7. So the fact that the league's going to improve, I actually think will help us, because our silly defeats actually came against teams in the bottom half. Our only 2 defeats at home were against Chesham and Hampton, and most of us have got them to go down. So yeah, I think it will actually help us that the league will get better.
One comment for you, Ben.
Well, I would agree with that, but I just haven't seen enough. And if it weren't for my involvement with club, I'd be very scared about putting us in around that bottom 4. I just don't have the confidence at the moment. Like I said, I really do hope that is going to be one of those things where George will get that squad together, and they can really have a good go in it and just be competitive. That's what we want to be. I think if we get a top half finish with the squad we've got on paper, I think that's a great season personally. But I just don't feel like this league's too strong this year, and I just don't think we're going to be anywhere near it personally. But who knows? This is football, eh? The surprises happen, and Truro won the league last year, and no one had them to do that. I don't think so. Who knows? But yeah, I really wouldn't put money on this right now. I'd save you fivers.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with Ben there. I mean, I think for me, there's too many unknowns with Maidstone. You look at the other teams; they're signing proven players, whereas Maidstone are taking gambles on people that haven't really performed at the level below. And yeah, George is a great coach, but he's not a magician at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And that's the way the league's going. It's going to be tough.
Yeah.
So, like we did previously for National League North, same questions again. But do you know what, Joe? I'm going to come to you first on this one. Surprise package of the season in National League South.
Yeah, well, obviously I've talked about Salisbury, who I think will be up there. But I'd probably have to go for Emil.
Emil?
Yeah. I think they've gone slightly under the radar this summer because they did all their business fairly early.
Yeah.
But I really like Lee Allenson, great coach. And it is very difficult to judge them. I think I've got a mid-table in mind. But they could quite easily go higher than that. I think they'll be I don't think they've got enough to push that top 7. But given the way that they ended the season, wouldn't surprise me if they started well this year and kept that momentum going.
We love Emil.
Emil.
Everyone in the chat's going to say
I'll tell you
that. Ben, I'll come to you. Surprise package of the season.
Now, I was leaning towards Hemel, but hear me out here. I'm actually going to go for Horsham, actually. And I know obviously Joe had them down as relegation. Now, the reason why I've gone for them is that Dom DePaolo has been manager now for about a decade now at Horsham. He's taken them from the county leagues to the National League South. And obviously, from experience, obviously, we went there in the FA Trophy last year, and that was probably one of the hardest and most physical games we've been a part of. They absolutely bullied us, they did. And I think they've got a very together squad that have been together now for a fair few years. So I can see them almost being a bit like Aveley a little bit when they came up a couple of years ago and reached the playoffs. I'm not saying they're going to reach the playoffs, but I can definitely see them finishing in the top half in that. Look, they have, again, as I think we said, as Joe said, they have added a big experience, the likes of Reece Murphy, and I've got Shamir Fenelon, who's played in the National League as well, Greg Lure, James Roberts. And midfield-wise, they've got Charlie Hester Cook, who I thought was outstanding against us last yeyear, and I just get a feeling that if they can keep that togetherness and everything, like going to that division, I really think they can give it a good go. Look, and also it's such a hard place to go. I think teams found it very much a struggle last year. I don't know what it is about Horsham, but home record-wise, they were very good last year, and they make it very difficult to team, and they can blow teams away if they want to. Albeit this is a completely different level for them now, and they're going to be up against it. But I think Dom DePaolo, for what he's done there, I think he's going to really get the best out of them. So I can see him having a top half finish personally.
Lee, have you got any surprise packages of the season?
Now, both my surprise packages that I was going to say have already been chosen, but I've got to agree with Ben. I've met Dom a couple of times. We did a Q&A night with him and Mark and everyone, and yeah, I agree with Ben. You go to Horsham and it's not an easy place. The squad have been together a long time now. Dom knows what he's doing. The players know what he sets out at the start of every season. So yeah, they won't get playoffs. They won't get relegated, but there be that mid-table team that will upset a lot of the big teams in that division this year. And yeah, I'm going with Horsham as the surprise.
And I'll just add on that. Obviously, I did have them to go down, but I can get on board with them being a surprise package because it's difficult to put a handle on a team that hasn't been at the level before.
Yeah.
Because you don't, they could come up and adjust really well, like we've seen the likes of Chesham do, but they may struggle. And the only concern is I do have is that it's a very old squad. And, especially the way that it's going now, you've got to have pace in your team. And they don't have that. But yeah, I agree with what Lee and Ben are saying. Dom is virtually, he won't like the comparison, but I know they're very, very good friends, but he is virtually a Mark White number 2, isn't he? Been there for so long, very passionate, loves his football. So yeah, wouldn't be at all surprised if they do make me eat my words at the end of the season.
Lee, I'm going to come to you first with this one. Club with the most pressure on them this season?
I would say Eastbourne, because they're one of the professional sides in the league. So I look at that now and I see there's a lot more pressure on them to get promoted. They won't go winning the league, but to get promoted, because there's only going to be so long that you can stay in this division before you start to hit trouble with finances and players and that sort of thing. So I think, the club with the most pressure this season is Eastbourne.
Ben?
Do you know what? Now Lee's mentioned it. I think just because they lost a lot of money, they would have lost a lot of money from last year, because they really put everything in, to get promoted. Some of the wages I heard that some of those players were on, I thought that's absolutely ridiculous. I'm probably between them and probably Chelmsford, just because of the amount of money that's gone in, obviously, Chelmsford, because they've just come out now with this brand new ambition of saying, look, we want to get into the National League. And I'd like to think, and, again, some of those players I've been told on good authority that are on some good money there. So again, it's all about finances for me at this level, and I think that brings the most pressure to teams, and especially with the statements I've been making. I think Torquay, don't get me wrong, they clearly obviously put a little bit in to get some of these players from a much higher level, and again, I think the fans all themselves put the pressure on them. I think first and foremost, but I think from the outside, I think Chelmsford are probably going to have the biggest pressure on them. But I could definitely get on board with Eastbourne as well. And Matt Gray's got a difficult task in because everyone with the experience he's brought from Football League and National League, there'll be a lot of expectation of them again. But I think Chelmsford just slightly edge it for me on that.
Joe, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would have to agree. I think obviously Torquay as well, there will be pressure on them. Yes, they handled it well last year, but there will be pressure and more pressure. Ebbsfleet, I think, are probably certainly the favourites because of the squad that they've got. And then you've got to look at Dagenham. I don't think that they've got that pressure because of the squad, but because of the publicity that they've got and the expectation with Andy Carroll and the new owners coming in and everything. I think most Dagenham fans, whilst they would have wanted to get promoted this year, I think if you said to them a steady mid-table season and just build, I think they'd be happy. But they've had pressure put on them to actually go and get promoted this season. So there will be pressure on Bradbury.
First manager to be sacked. Ben, I'm going to come to you.
It pains me to say it because I really like him as a character, Alan Julian, for me. I really hope it isn't because, I mean, look, you can only work with what you've got, and that's the thing. I'm hoping that Hampton might have in their mind, thinking, look, he's not clearly got the best budget, clearly, the calibre of players he's been signing, because a lot of them are gambles. But I think for a club like Hampton, because they have dropped into Isthmian Prem before, in recent years, and I just can't see how that club, especially with new ownership taking over, that they're going to accept that. So it is a difficult one because there's so many other managers that will be under huge pressure to get playoffs or promotion and everything. So I would probably go for Alan Julian. I really hope it isn't, though, to be honest.
Joey, do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean that is a difficult one. Yeah, I mean I probably would have to agree with Ben, only because obviously Hampton's owners, yes, they haven't put the money in, but they are very ambitious. I think they've just had a takeover. I think at the end of last season, given the new investment in Dagenham, does Lee Bradbury get the whole season to see it out? Potentially not. It's always a difficult one to do that, isn't it, manager? One person it won't be is obviously Mark, because
I was going to say that
himself. But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be at all surprised if Totten maybe with Jimmy Ball, because they've come up and we haven't really talked about them, but they have got a good budget. Some big players come in. I mean, they've just signed J. Emmanuel Thomas, who's obviously had a bit of an interesting journey, but obviously lots of experience, and given the money that they've spent, there'll be expectation for them to not just step up, but do really well this year.
Lee, first manager to be sacked. Not Jim Bentley.
I'm going to go Jim Bentley. No, I've got to say, and I don't want to, but I think it'd be Tunbridge, Craig Nelson. I think it'd be the first manager to be sacked. Just only because, like we said, it's a big step up from what he had at Lewis to the way they just fell apart. To then it was a really strange signing that Tunbridge went for. So yeah, I could see it just being that little bit too much for him, and I could see him going for us. And Craig, if you do watch this or listen to this, I'm really sorry.
Yeah, I mean that one thing I would add on that, I agree with Lee, is that Tonbridge are one of those teams that they can't really afford to get relegated because the Isthmian League is an absolute pig of a league. It's so tough. So if you go down, it can be really difficult. And we haven't talked about him, but there's a manager waiting in the wings. Yes, I know we got relegated last year, but Danny Scopes, there'll be a number of teams that think, yeah, well, if we make a change, we could bring in someone like that to save our season. So, yeah, wouldn't be at all surprised.
Don't worry as well, guys. I'm not going to clip it and tag anyone in the managers to be sacked segment. Do not worry. It's just to look on next at the end of the season. I won't be tagging anybody in that, so you're all safe. Top goal scorer. I'll come to you first, Joe. Who do you reckon?
Oh, tough one. Obviously, I expect Torquay will score lots of goals, but I'm not going to go for Cody Cook because I think he'll rotate a fair bit. I'll actually go for Matt Taylor at Salisbury. Yeah. They created a lot of chances last year. They just didn't have anybody to put them away. And Matt Taylor's been proven in the Football League. You know, he knows where the goal is, and if he gets the service, obviously they've brought in the likes of Tommy Willard from Worthing. They've brought Matt Briggs in from Dorking as well. So he'll have better service, and I think that he will get good service to get a decent return of goals.
Lee, who are you going for?
Yeah, I've got to agree with Joe. I think Matt Taylor, or depending how he goes and if he stays injury free, Andy Carroll. I could see him banging in a few goals this season.
Ben?
I think just because they've worked well together in the past playing for Ebbsfleet, I think I'm going to go Don Polion for Farnborough. Only because, like I said, I think the only question will be, is he going to get the same amount of chances created as he would have done at Ebbsfleet? Because obviously when they won the league a couple of years ago, they had a lot of creative midfielders, whereas now they sort of are relying now on those two a little bit, and that's the thing, they can't create the chances themselves. If they get the right service, and Bingham and Polion have always worked so well together, and that's at this level. So him, and if not, again, Jack Barham, I know exactly he will be a menace for defenders, because balls over the top in this league, it's a bit easier for him to get chances, I think, in comparison to National League, where it's a bit more, get it out wide, try and play through balls, but because balls over the top, he latches onto them all the time, and he's very clever. So, again, it wouldn't be surprised if he was right out there. But I think, just because of previous experience and he's done it before, Polion for me for Farnborough.
Just a point now. I mean, Ben mentioned Farnborough. I mean, that's the first we've mentioned of them in the pod, which is funny because in my predictions that I'm writing at the moment, I say that every season we back them and every season we say that they'll be in and amongst it. And yet none of us actually picked them for the top 7. And... yes, they've signed some good players, but I think I put them in the top 3 last year. I don't know what it is, but they just can't. No matter what squad they've got, it looks good on paper, but it just never delivers.
I don't think they've got the squad depth either, have they? I don't think they ever have in the recent years. Because again, this is the thing where they always say they haven't got the greatest budget, but then all of a sudden they've come out inside probably 2 of the best strikers in the league. So it makes you think someone's not quite telling the truth here, clearly. And I think they always seem to fall away, don't they, towards the end of the season. So I think that's probably why because I think around Christmas time, they're always there and thereabouts. They were last year. And then second half of the season, they just, drops like so badly. So, it's a bit to go on. If they can keep players injury free there, I wouldn't be surprised if they were, challenging for that top 7 this year.
Yeah, I mean, you don't sign midfielders like Billy Clifford if you haven't got a quid or two. So they're not. They're certainly not got their caps out skimping for a few quid.
Just quickly onto the chat. Chris has put a surprise package, Chelmsford City. Most pressure, he's gone for Torquay United. Jamie has gone for surprise package, Farnborough. Most pressure, Torquay. First sacking, Alan Julian. Top scorer, George Alexander. And Luke has gone for, he's put champions. He didn't do his prediction before. He's put Torquay. Surprise package, Salisbury. First sacking, Tonbridge Angels. Top scorer, Alfie Rutherford.
And just for Jamie's purpose as well, Chippenham will finish in their comfortable 15th or 14th or whatever it is this year. No problem for them again. Looking forward to coming back down, by the way, Jamie, as usual this year.
But that is the end of our prediction show. Done well as well, considering we had to do 2 leagues. So thank you so much, guys. Lee, where can everybody find you if they want more Lee in their life?
Where if they want more of me in their life, you can find me on YouTube at Football League Adventures. Twitter and Instagram is exactly the same, Football League Adventures. So yeah, that's where you will find me.
Ben, thank you so much again for obviously going to your brother's house, using the internet. Honestly, dedication to the pod. But where can everybody find you?
You can find me on Benstones FC1 on Twitter. You're probably going to see a lot of depressed tweets at the start of the season when we probably inevitably lose 4-0 to Hemel. But, you know, who knows? This club always tends to deliver somehow. But, yeah, that's where you want to find me, being all depressed, and that's the best to find me.
Just do me a quick favour, Ben. Pronounce Emil without the H.
Emil.
Thank you.
Emil.
We don't have H's on this podcast. I'm joking. As I mentioned as well at the start of the show, we are in collaboration with NL Full Time. Thank you so much, Joe, for coming on and giving up your time for this. Where can everybody find the podcast and obviously your amazing work too? And plug your book. She wrote with cash.
Yes, and obviously the podcast NL Full Time on Twitter and all the usual podcasting places. My blog, Off the Line blog on Twitter. Obviously, just brought out a book, Diamonds in the Rough, which is going pretty well. So I know Paul there obviously is enjoying it. So yeah, go and get that. And hopefully I'll have lots of really happy tweets to put up on Twitter where Ben can obviously come in for his weekly counselling session during the season.
I'll need it, don't worry.
If anybody does want to find me, I am SharXREFC. That is on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. My Her Game 2 stuff as well is Rochdale HGT. Please follow that. We've got some amazing stuff happening with that at the moment. The club are being absolutely brilliant and doing so much for us with the Her Game 2 stuff. So please follow that. And of course, please follow the Absolute Football Podcast. We were Best New Content Creator at the FCAs, and we do not have one show a week now. We have 4 shows a week. So please check them out. On Twitter, we are Absolute Ball Pod. YouTube and Twitch, Absolute Football Podcast. TikTok, we are Absolute Football Pod. Instagram, Absolute Football Podcast _ Blue Skies, Absolute Football, and the Absolute Football Podcast on Facebook. All of our shows are live at 8:30 on a Monday. Obviously, you can find all of us on the Absolutely Non-League show. Next week, we will be doing our National League predictions. So if anybody does want to get them in, please do that now. Tomorrow, Sam and the team are back. I think it's a transfer show for Absolutely Premier League. We have Freya and the team as well on a Wednesday. And I just want to say a massive thank you to them, because over the Women's Euros, they have done watch-alongs for every single game. So hats off and well done to them. And they did obviously get the happy ending. We all did. We got that win. So amazing work from them. And then obviously on a Thursday, I am back with Absolutely Lower League. This week, we are doing our League 1 and League 2 predictions. So please get them in. If any of you guys want to do them, you're more than welcome to. You don't have to. But if you do want to send them in, let me know. Anybody in the chat as well, if you do want to send them in. And obviously, everybody in the chat, thank you so much for obviously your continued support, for joining in the chat. But yeah, have a lovely week, everyone. And hopefully we've predicted well this season. It'll be fun anyway, won't it? But thank you so much, and goodbye for now.